TEDx. We have Maxey of the Island School in the Bahamas, and yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about this place. I went to the Maine Coast semester myself, which is also a junior year high school program where you learn about the environment, and this one is not in cold weather, so I bet there'll be sunny pictures. Welcome.
Wow, my brain, my neurons are firing. Are you guys with me on that? Like, my right brain, which I don't really connect to all the time, is really going off. And I do have to share that even in my generation, I was almost medicated. Okay, so, you know, I've got ADD, and I really, I connect to that because I think there's so much talent wasted in education. And I would say that your comment, right, about change right here is happening because of what this conference is all about. And it started in July when Chloe got on the phone with me and gave me all the directions and, you know, the whole lead up to this conference. I've planned a lot of conferences. I've been to a lot of conferences. This is far and away, I want you guys to join me in celebrating. This is far and away the best conference I've ever been to. So, you know, this is the message, right? Get out of the way of students. I try at the school, well, I'd like to get rid of the word school, but it's the Island School. I try to get rid of that word, right? Because young people can do so much, and actually, in many ways, they can do more. And that's what my message is, that schools can go to work. And another recent story, Katie Romanoff, who's one of my colleagues from the Island School, is here at Middlebury. We've got a lot of Island School colleagues that have been through here or here now. We were out in front of Two Brothers last night, and she's telling me about the solar decathlon and how like 70 of Middlebury students, like 70 other peers, were like, "I'm behind you, Katie. Let's do it," you know. And we ran in randomly to two guys that were part of the crew, and we were all lamenting that like they had 5 classes and they had to build a solar house and somehow transport it to Washington, D.C. and set it up again. And they're part of this huge competition, and they're spending orders of magnitude more time, and I will say getting orders of magnitude more value out of that journey together. And the question I asked the young architect major was, "Are you getting any course credit for this?" He said, "No, I've already used up that course credit." And so, as much as Middlebury deserves to be celebrated, and the Island School too, we still have a long way to go. We need to get out of the way. And so what I said last night to these three, I said, I'm going to let you guys get up on stage and give your talk, because that's the real story that I'm telling, is students going to work at a young age and making a difference in the world. I can't do that, though. Chloe told me. Can we just take a few deep breaths on this one? I want you to listen to this image. When I was born in 1961, no one had seen this. That's kind of a cool idea, right? Like, no one had seen this. When I looked up on the internet to find out when the image actually got out to the public, it was 1968. And there's this really cool little piece on the internet that said, the astronauts were prepared for anything. You know, they had all the rescue procedures. They knew how to survive in this environment. They weren't prepared for that. That view of a planet. And I think it's the first time we started to think about the resources. In fact, it's an island, right? It's an island. It's floating out there. The fragility of it. So, a little bit about my background. I wasn't born with any kind of environmental spirit. But what I did have is a connection to the ocean. My mom believed that we should be thrown into the ocean before we could walk, which is a little crazy. And people used to run up on the beach and try to save us out of the waves. You can't see this image, but like when I was a teenager, and this was before Jaws came out, I was swimming in the ocean at night, and there was bioluminescence everywhere, and the stars were out, and I was like, oh, like I was spiritually connected to something. Like a lot of people in my generation, I think yours too, it's hard to find something spiritual and sense of wonder, that was talked about here. Like that was it for me. So I love the ocean, and what I did is I joined the Navy because I thought maybe I could be in the ocean a lot, which was a little silly. And these are real images of my platoon in the Philippines blowing up a coral reef. Like if you know where I am now, you know that this was a different life. I was laughing with my guys as we scooped up dead fish for a barbecue, like that's where I was. And I've come a long way. And the journey, which is really cool for me, and I agree with that idea of epiphany. I don't think it happens like that. I think it happens over time. And for me, when I started to teach, I got this opportunity to teach, I started to change my worldview, and it came from young people. Like I climbed up in this tower, this tree, and was holding a zip cable by a sophomore, like a 15-year-old at the school. And I was like, this is leadership, this is unbelievable. Look how much confidence this person had. The ropes course is where students were teaching faculty and inspiring people to take on their fears, and I was like, this is it, They didn't get credit for it, of course, but it was where things were happening. And then we designed a course called Rivers, which meandered down the Batsto River and thought about how man's view of land has changed over time. So we read a lot of John Muir and Aldo Leopold, and I started to expand my worldview and realize that like saving our home, the planet, is what it's got to be about, right? And the only way to do that is through education. Right? I think everybody, all the ideas that are out here, whether you want to get plastics out of the ocean or you want to get art going in places, it's got to happen at young age. It's got to happen in schools. Schools can save the world. So we're going to zoom into my little island on Eleuthera, and right up here, that's art, right? The sand striations. That's what we're going to zoom into now. This is one of the first classes, if I can use that word, at the island school, where we're like rubbing oolitic sand on our face and learning to love the place where the island school is. And that's the first step to being able to affect change. But the cool thing about this place is it's obviously, like any place, has really amazing people. And so the young students that are working with us are learning how to share. Many of the island people have never learned how to swim before. And to hold a little kid's hand and take them into the ocean and get a mask on their face and like, oh man, that's creating a new ethic for saving this little island by sharing with these young people. It's an amazing story. We knew we had to live what we were teaching, right? And so on an island that burns diesel, we now have wind and solar that more than powers our campus, shares power with the local community. And water comes off our roof, very simple idea. But where water goes, how water moves, this idea of waste, was a big challenge for us. And here's a shot of the second phase of building for us. Those buildings in the back had these leachaway septics in the ground that were magically letting our wastewater from our toilets go on to, you can see the beautiful clear water there, the reefs behind the building. We were literally living hypocritically as this place that was trying to inspire conservation. Boy, what do I need to do here? I'm getting too excited. Okay. So, young faculty and some engineers set up this constructed wetland system. And it's a really cool story about changing, redefining the word waste. And it's a major theme for us, whether it's plastic bottles or what's going on our toilets. So look at what happened. We planted, and you can see our campus is kind of a limestone parking lot, right? So we create, our waste treatment plant is in the middle of our campus. And we planted it with these really smart guys. These guys are maybe 400 or 500 million years old, these plants, right? And they said, what you guys think is waste is food for us. Watch what happened in 3 months. Whoa. Right? Look at that. They're like, food, give us food, It's unbelievable. And what we like to say at the Island School with pride, we say every time We flush a toilet at the island school, a flower bloom. You know, like, look at that. More stories about waste. Students developed an aquaponics system, tilapia, feeding plants, providing a plate of food for our dining hall, in a place that has trouble with sustainable fisheries and growing greens. Here's a great system. Another great story, right? Biofuel, waste oil. Cruise ship comes into this island with 4,000 crazy American tourists on it. You can eat French fries 24 hours a day on a cruise ship. And so there's a ton of waste oil. We turned that into biofuel, and it started as a student research project. And I want to play a clip because one of the girls in this project, 16 years old, she goes back to Texas, to a big public high school. That's where she came from. And look at what she did.
These Westlake students are taking environmentalism to the streets.
This right here is used to mix the methanol and the lye.
With the help of the Eanes ISD Transportation Department, they've been testing the fuel in a lawnmower. Now they're testing it in a bus.
Thought it would be an opportunity to see just exactly how biodiesel would operate.
Okay, so I hope that was kind of powerful. That's a news clip from 8 years ago. A student comes back from this project. And I think this is the message that's so exciting for me is, you know, whether it's Katie Romanoff or Sam Dawson, or I can name a bunch more Island School graduates that are in your world here at Middlebury, or whether it's Sarah Rodell going back to her high school in Texas, like, once you give a young person a chance to really lead and make a difference and share and solve problems, they don't want any more school. Okay, I mean, I'm really saying that, and I'm asking us, and that was your statement, right? I'm sorry, what's your name? Peter. What Peter said was, like, let's do something about this. Like, why were those 3 great Middlebury students standing out there going, I don't know how I'm going to build this house and do all my courses? Like, Middlebury should be one of the schools that's saying, let's bust open the idea of school. There's so many inspirational professors and leaders here who I know are already doing things on J-term and allowing people to go out and focus. But, like, this is the kind of place that should be a base camp where students and faculty are getting out and making a difference in the community and in their campuses. So, another story about, I think we talk a lot about systems. This is tied to that image of going snorkeling on the beach, right? These 2 ladies, who actually both ended up at Dartmouth, started a non-for-profit. And it came from that feeling of taking that kid in the Bahamas and teaching them how to swim. And they realized that so many people in island coastal environments, especially developing world coastal environments, don't know how to swim. It's a safety issue, but it's also like an empowering confidence issue. So they started a not-for-profit called Swim to Empower, which I'm really proud of. So, you know, the kind of change agents that our young graduates become when they go back to high school, when they go on to college, when they go on to careers, is amazing. We're only 11 years old and it's already happening, so I'm really proud of that. You guys, anybody know who this is? I call him the father. This is David Orr, and he's a professor at Oberlin. And he came and spoke to us. He speaks a lot about a sense of wonder and the need for a revolution, right? I mean, he wants to raise the bar, and he's been trying to get this going for decades now. And I feel like the wave is crested. I really do. This conference is an example. Right? I feel like there is huge momentum in allowing young people to take a lead and be more active in their own journey. And by doing that, can you imagine if every high school, every middle school, every elementary school, rather than the linear left brain focus that we're on now, was allowing freedom for creativity and collaboration and work out in the community? Can you imagine what would happen? Like, I think that's the way we're going to save the world. So I leave you with my favorite quote. And sometimes I get in trouble with this, especially as a father. Because I have 2 teenage girls. I'm always telling them that they have to do their homework. And I brought it up on the streetcar last night. It's Mark Twain. I think a lot of you guys know it. But we cannot let school get in the way of our